Elect Trump's choice for Health and Human Services Secretary will be back on Capitol Hill today trying to rally support for his nomination. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. kicked off his meetings with Republican senators on Monday. And we know so far they discussed RFK's positions on abortion access, processed foods, his skepticism about vaccines. Let's talk more about this now with Congressman Steve Cohen, Democrat from Tennessee. Congressman, always appreciate you jumping on with me. Let's talk RFK in a second. You had polio as a child back in the 50s. Can you talk to me a little bit more about your memories of that disease?
One of my earliest memories that I have, and I remember where I was immediately before it, is at a friend's family member's house, the swimming pool, and I'd been swimming. Mm-hmm. You often get polio from water. And I remember not being able to, getting up and walking and crumbling down in the living room. I couldn't walk. I went to the communicable disease hospital for about 2 weeks. I was pretty much alone there. My mother couldn't come see me. My father couldn't either. I guess my dad could because he's a doctor, but I couldn't. And then I was hospitalized for about 3 months and had hot pack treatment and lots of therapy. And then I got home on Thanksgiving Day and drove home in an ambulance, which was kind of weird. And was on crutches for about a year and a half. And I've got what they call post-polio now, which makes it difficult for me to stand or walk.
Still in adulthood.
In adulthood right now, yeah. And I use a scooter sometimes in the Capitol to save my energy. They say preserve it, to conserve it, to preserve it. It's been a part of my life for all my life. And I don't want to see anybody else have this happen to them. And it can happen. Salk vaccine is what saved the world. And then the Sabin and other vaccines, polio vaccines have worked and worked around the world because of Bill Gates and Rotary getting them out there, and nobody should take them back.
So what do you think of the possibility of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. heading up the Department of Health and Human Services? I
know Robert Kennedy. I've known him for over 40 years. We've had a cordial relationship. I think well of him as a friend and all, but not as anybody involved with health. His embrace of vaccine conspiracies and fears, and his talking about connection to autism and vaccines, which apparently the president has bought, does not exist. It was a theory that was debunked in the 90s by some tainted and fraudulent study in Denmark. He still talks about it. He talks about placebos. He's got this fellow named Siri, who's one of his top advisors, who's an anti-vaccine specialist. It would be a threat to polio vaccine and other vaccines, and children would get sick, and children would die, and children would have illnesses that haunt them the rest of their lives, as I've had with polio. And I owe it to everybody who's ever had polio, and anybody like was an iron lung when I was forced not to be an iron lung, and people who died, to stand up against this. And as much as I like Robert Kennedy, and he'd be fine working on Fruit Loops or some food thing, he has no business dealing with vaccines and no business dealing with our health agencies.
Let me play a bit of sound for you, Congressman, because President-elect Trump says that he supports the polio vaccine and he defended RFK. Take a quick listen here and I'll get your reaction on the other side.
I think everything should be looked at, but I'm a big believer in the polio vaccine. I think you're going to find that Bobby is a very rational guy. I found him to be very rational. No, nothing, you're not going to lose the polio vaccine. That's not going to happen. I saw what happened with the polio. I have friends that were very much affected by that.
So, Congressman Cohen, are fears that RFK Jr. would ban the polio vaccine being overblown here, especially when, if he is confirmed, he'll be taking his orders from President Trump?
No, they're not overblown at all. And Trump wouldn't want something like that politically to come on him. But he also seems to think that Bobby is some type of a guru on these things. And he says they're very brilliant people working on it. Well, you're either brilliant or you're not. The president doesn't speak very well either. But he doesn't know who's brilliant, who isn't. He can hardly speak himself. And it's sad, his detergents, bleaches, put light in here somewhere to cure COVID. The man he's not competent to judge what should happen with our health care either. That's why he needs to hire experts and let them do it, and not hire a neophyte who has these theories that are not based in science, not grounded in science, and have been disproved over and over and over again, but he won't let them out of his head. So, Bobby, give him a job dealing with Fruit Loops or food or bacon or something like that, but don't let him deal with science, vaccinations, medications, treatments, and pandemics. That needs to go to the pros from Dover. Francis Collins was great at NIH. You need top flight people.
I got to end it there, but Congressman Steve Cohen, appreciate your insights this morning. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
We'll see you again.